Dog attacks are making headlines across New Zealand, and in the 2024-25 financial year alone, there were just over 29,000 dog-related injuries recorded in New Zealand, according to ACC stats, with almost half of those being dog bite injuries. In March this year, the government ordered a complete review of the Dog Control Act, legislation that councils themselves say is outdated and stopping them from doing their jobs. So, what does all of this look like on the ground? Today, I'm joined by Damian Nunns, who is the Senior Animal Control Officer with Wellington City Council, to talk about what happens on the front line and how we can improve community safety. Damian, thank you for joining me.
Hey, no problem. Nice to be here.
To start, can you tell us a little bit about your role and what an animal control officer does on a daily basis?
Yeah, look, the role is quite varied. We have lots of things to follow up on, whether that be complaints about dogs or stock. So we can be out in the field responding to complaints. We often are patrolling as well. So when we're out and about looking for breaches of the Dog Control Act or bylaws in your local parks and out in the community, just speaking to people and trying to educate. So there's a quite a varied amount that we do. Some councils also have animal control staff that look after dogs in the shelter. So yeah, such as Wellington, our animal control staff attend to the shelter as well. So got quite a varied role, but our main response is obviously to enforce the Dog Control Act and the and our council bylaws. But yeah, there's many facets to that role.
Yeah. Yeah, really important work too, especially the keeping of keeping community safer and all of that, hey.
Yeah,
Uh, what sort of dog related incidents do you deal with most often?
most often we're dealing with barking dogs is probably the highest throughout the country. Barking dogs are a logistical nightmare. Um, yeah, people can obviously ring in and complain about or contact the council and lay complaints about barking dogs and that sort of thing. The problem we have is that the barking for an offence to occur under the Act, the barking has to be both loud and persistent. And that's the guideline under the Act, both loud and persistent. So it leaves it up to interpretation from many facets of the not only the community but within council itself. What's loud and persistent? So that's probably the biggest issue that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The other thing is uncontrolled dogs. People allowing their dogs to roam. Generally, these are happening after hours when there's less animal control people on the ground. So yeah,
Okay.
that's a problem.
Yeah, yeah. And so there will be people responding, but it will be limited how many you've got on at the time, right? So,
Well, yeah, I was going to say most dog control units after 5 o'clock at night have a very much a skeleton response, so they don't have the resources for wandering dogs. By the time you get to the area, the wandering dog's no longer an issue. It's gone. It's either gone back home or just non-existent. And often we don't know where those dogs have come from in the first place. It's because there's more people at home at that time and they see these dogs roaming, they report them, but we generally don't have all the information that we require to follow up. So we can get there and the roaming dog is no longer in the situation, no longer in the area, and we just don't know where it's come from.
yeah, okay. So if you do get a hold of the roaming dog, what would your procedure usually be?
If we were to pick up a roaming dog in the area, we would impound it. But at that point, there is council has discretion whether they return it back to the owner with a warning or a fine, or they impound it and take it back to the shelter and impose impounding fees and that sort of thing. So there's a couple of things option. I would dare say that most, if it was a first time offence, you might give it back with some sort of warning or similar. But if it was a repeat offender, you might take a harder line by impounding the dog, and obviously the fees would be incurred.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. Um, So part of the law reform that's going on at the moment is potentially looking at a centralized national database for recording dog bite incidents and circumstances around dog bite incidents. So from your point of view, what would you recommend people do if they are bitten or if their dog is bitten? I guess those two situations might be separate scenarios with recommendations from your side. So what would you
Is
recommend?
this immediately following a dog attack? Is that what you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Um, not probably get yourself safe. Make sure that you're out of get away from the dog, or make yourself safe or your dog safe. Probably the biggest thing that we struggle with is people are unable to identify the attacking dog either. And what I would say is, if you're able to get any information from any source to help report that, that would be great. Whether you're able to identify an address, if you're able to take a photo of the attacking dog, or speak to somebody that seems to be in charge of the dog and get as much information as possible to then pass on to us. There are a high number of complaints where someone gets bitten, a member of the public gets bitten, but they didn't think to get the details, they didn't think to document anything, and therefore it's very hard to obviously line up an unknown dog with an attack. Um, we get it that people can't identify breeds and that sort of thing, but colours and shapes and that sort of thing, size. Um, an address, car registration plate, something like that, we can work with. But yeah, if we don't have any of that information, it gets very difficult. So, bottom line, report it to the council with as much detail as possible about the incident. An officer would probably get in contact anyway, so we need obviously more details, because an anonymous complaint or a complaint that doesn't want to be contacted is really difficult to follow up as well. So your details are paramount to be able to start an investigation and get as much details from you.
yeah, yeah. And I think the important message there is that you're actually there to help, right? So get
Yeah,
in touch and talk to you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you have an example where things have gone really well?
yeah. Look, I can talk about a recent situation where a member of the public was bitten early morning. The dog owner had accidentally let out their dog whilst trying to get to the car. In the frantic, the door pushed open, the dog rushed out, and it bit a person. And I was able to get the victim was able to provide all the details of where the dog came from, so it was easy to go and approach the dog owner. And the dog owner was really responsible in the fact that they agreed, they were identified that their dog had issues. They were like, yeah, my dog's got issues. I don't normally allow this to happen. This was a complete accident. And while we understand things are accidents, we need to obviously discuss with them ways to remedy those accidents from obviously happening again. So they were fully on board with recommendations, and were completely responsible about the whole thing. The dog ended up being issued a classification, and those people were like, that was fairly fair. They were expecting that or worse. And so they've taken it and gone, right, well, we've gone online, we've purchased a muzzle, we've put up the gate where you've said, and they were completely responsible about the whole thing. They understood that an incident had taken place and they wanted to remedy it themselves. They'd even been down to the victim before I got involved. They'd even been down to the victim's family and apologised and that sort of thing. So when things come together like that, that goes really smoothly and helps. It's when it's when things, yeah, don't work the same way. That's when it becomes tricky with people either not identifying where the dog comes from. The people are less respectful or are responsible, and you get that's when issues creep in, and you need to manage those very carefully.
Yeah. Do you have situations where the whole um, scenario that happened probably caused so much stress that people might have not reacted the right way in the first instance, but then they actually come back to you after yeah, as those emotions settle and they're able to think, I guess, more clearly and actually then they do want to cooperate?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the dog is an extension of their family, and they're quite protective of it and defensive. And often, in some cases, yes, you will get the brick wall to start with, and then a little while later, you can actually penetrate that and get some sort of moving forward. Um, to work together to get a reasonable outcome. At the end of the day, not every incident needs to go through a prosecution. There are other tools for council to do, and often, if we can get that cooperation and that sort of thing, the council's more willing to allow those other methods to carry on rather than to look at a full blown prosecution.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Again, about education and working with the public, and the
yeah,
guardians, dogs. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, what, in your opinion, are some misconceptions that people have about reporting dog bites or dog attacks?
Um, I think they think that we're just going to come along, take the dog away, and put it to sleep or euthanize it. And whilst that can happen in some cases, there's very specific incidences. Like a council cannot destroy a dog or put it to sleep without either the dog owner's consent or a court ruling. Um, the only other time it would come in is if no one claimed it and was at the shelter and held for a period of time, and no one claimed it within that period of time, and we had to make a decision on whether that dog was rehomable or not. Chances are, if it's bitten somebody, it doesn't fall into the rehome category. Um, but yeah, most people think that if they report it to us, then it's the end of the line for the dog, and that's not the case. That is really not the case. There is multiple tools there for council to use, and we choose to use them when we can see responsibility coming through from the dog owner and that sort of thing. So say, okay, so we can manage this a different way, and it's a better outcome for all.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and if there was one message that you could tell the public or dog owners out there to take away from today, what would that message be?
Look, I think that probably the one thing I say to people all the time is that every dog owner needs to be responsible. They're an animal at the end of the day. Um, as much as they can be cute and cuddly and your best mate at home, there is another side to dogs that we sometimes see, and people are a little bit oblivious to it. And I'd say just be responsible, be respectful of the community that you live in. The best way to keep a dog under control is have it on lead. Just be responsible, abide by the bylaws, and more than half our problems would be resolved in that respect.
Yeah, no, that's a great message and a good one to finish on as well. So thank you so much for your time, Damien. I think the work you and your team does is just so important and probably more important than people realize, and that you are there to help and to educate. And yeah, we really appreciate what you do. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for the time. Excellent.